Well, welcome to Age Friendly. We're certainly pleased that you're here today. And of course, we're into fall and into winter, and it's slippery, and it could be that the sidewalks that you're walking on are slippery or icing, and we're talking about falls prevention. November is the Falls Prevention Month, and we're talking today with, and I'm Rebecca Johnson, by the way. I should have mentioned that at the start. And we are going to talk about falls prevention, as I say. And today we're going to talk to Kim McGibbon from the Public Health Unit, and she is a public health nutritionist. Now I have to ask him, how do we get a public health nutritionist and falls prevention? But we're going to talk about the fact that we have falls prevention. And you know what we're going to talk about today, which I think is exciting, a little bit about what people could be eating, which will help them for falls prevention as well.
To help keep their body strong. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We're in the slippery section of our year, and people fall. That's really sad, but they do.
Yeah, and we don't want that,
no,
right? So we want to
not
talk
at
a bit
all.
about prevention. And normally I don't talk about this because I'm a dietitian by trade.
That's what I mean.
But my colleague who is a nurse wasn't able to come in today, so I'm blending the two together. A little falls prevention, a little healthy eating. It's perfect.
And there's more and more, unfortunately, because there's more seniors.
Yep.
And so with that comes the fact that there's more falls, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. Older adults in Canada, 20 to 30% of them might fall this year coming up, and those are normal stats, and it's the leading cause of injury-related hospitalizations in Canada, and that's one of our concerns, right? Because a fall, the older we are, the more devastating and the long-term problems that can come from that, and so that's why we want to prevent them.
Right, and I think that one of the things that happen, which is really unfortunate, if you fall as a senior, you sometimes, in fact, most times, wind up in the hospital.
Yeah, exactly. There might be breaks, right? So as the bones get a little bit older, they're a little bit more prone to breakage, right? Yeah.
And with that is the fact that you might not even get out of the hospital. I'm serious about that.
Yeah. We want to prevent that. Absolutely. We want to create strength around the muscles. We want strength of the muscles around the bones, and we want to create strong bones. And we just want to prevent falls, right? And we can try to strategize about how we can prevent those falls.
So, all right, then let's talk about that. If I pick that up from your comment, is how do you prevent falls?
Well, first of all, you might find this surprising, but most seniors fall on flat surfaces. And so obviously in the winter, that's more concerning, but there might be slippery spaces in your house as well. And then next falls from furniture and then stairs, right? Obviously we think about stairs with falling, but so we don't think about a flat surface, but we need to start thinking about it. And so one of the things we can do is, check out the environment to make sure that we don't.
One of the things as simple is really your rugs or your, in front of you why do you even have a rug when you think about it as you're an older adult?
Right.
That can be really slippery.
Yeah, and a tripping hazard, right? Yeah, absolutely. So is there a way that you can assess your space? So do a bit of a fall risk assessment. Look at the space, look at the furniture, make sure the furniture is in good order too, because you might try to lift up, something has a wobbly leg, that might create a bit of instability. So checking on those things, checking on the floors. Maybe there are parts of your floors that are torn up, not just the carpet, but maybe there are pieces of wood or nails that stick up, or the edges in between rooms. So checking on those things is all one way that we can look at that.
The other thing too that I'm sitting here thinking about is the fact that in a bathroom, we really should have where you can hold on to something when you're getting in and out, and if you all of a sudden feel that you're going to slip, which you can do, is you can't hold on to a shower curtain and hope that it's going to hold you up.
It's not going to hold you up. Absolutely. You need a wall or a counter that's a little more stable. And ideally, many houses now, as new houses are being built, the recommendation is that they put some bars in the showers, right, as a standard. But if that's not your house at this point, you can look into that, right, as you get to be a little bit older, making sure you have those protective pieces.
The other thing is we're proud. As an older adult, we're proud. We don't want to use thinking of, oh my God, I now have to use a cane. Or I now have to use a walker. But those are also really help and assistive devices to assist you so that you don't fall.
Right, and not just not fall, but increase your quality of life, right? Now you can get out and you can move, and the social pieces that come with that increased quality of life are really important. It's more important to keep moving. If you need a cane to keep moving, I have a very good friend. She's 92. Her name is Gloria. She doesn't live in Thunder Bay, but she had to use a walker, and this is the same. She was very proud, and she was very angry that she had to use this walker. But the the more she uses the walker, the more mobile she is, the more strength she builds in her muscles, right? And the more opportunities she has for social interaction, and those are important.
That's right. When you're talking about building up, it's the same as doing exercises all the time. Because if you continue to do exercise, you don't have to do a lot, but you need to do exercising so it builds up the muscle, and you can use that so that it prevents you from falling.
Yeah, and so gentle exercises, Tai Chi is one of those. And if you have the internet at home, you can find videos on Tai Chi. My side hustle is teaching yoga, so doing some gentle yoga stretches as well. And something with a little bit of strength training is important, right? You want to build the muscles and the tendons around the bones so that they have more flexibility and more movement.
I was doing some reading before we did the television program today, and one of the things is just making a fist and just putting your hands together and really pushing on that for about 10 seconds, but it builds up the muscle, and you don't have to have weights or anything. But I thought, you know what, we could do that. That's not really hard
Or even
to do.
squeezing those squeezy balls that you find. The grip strength is really important. My daughter just studied kinesiology, and she just finished at Lakehead here, and she said there's a lot of research about grip strength and how the more grip strength you have, the more longevity you have. And you think about how many times we need to use our wrists and our hands.
That's right.
Right? And we'll talk about that when we get to food a little bit later, too.
And one of the things, too, is the whole use of the TheraBands, which we're going to bring on the show, but we just didn't. But the point being, that's just the elastic, and you can push and do all kinds of things with those.
It's a very inexpensive way to get that. Absolutely, that little extra bit of strength training.
What about going to exercise classes? Is that worthwhile?
Oh, for me it is. I think there's a sense of community that comes with that, as well as getting out of your house and trying different things. We might get stuck in the rut at home, right? Doing the same video or whatever. And we challenge ourselves more when there's other people around. So I think that's important. And there's lots of great options here in Thunder Bay.
Right. Certainly there is. And even when you look at the VON, who put on free, like a lot of people can't afford a lot of exercise classes, but you can go to the VON, and they do that on a regular basis. I'm just using that as a opportunity for people here. But all of that is really falls prevention when we think about it, Kim.
Absolutely. Definitely.
And one of the other things is the fun part of it you can have, and in the back of your mind say, I'm going to keep doing this, whatever it happens to be, so that I don't fall.
Yeah, and it's good for our mental health too, right? Not just for our physical health. Exercise is very important for our mental health, partly because of the social, but also because it releases endorphins into our body, and that's good for our brain, for depression and anxiety.
This is exciting, when you think about it. Like, we can be really fit, we're not going to fall, and today we're also going to talk about some of the foods that we can eat that will help as we're going through this new cycle of life. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment with Kim McGibbon. Hello, and here we are talking about falls prevention and making sure that as an older adult that you don't fall. And some of the things that we can talk about are the risk factors, and Kim McGibbon is my guest. And Kim, you're from the health unit, and of course, when we talk about nutrition and all the rest of it, that's what I always think about when we chat. But we're going to talk about falls prevention risk. What are they?
So there's multiple risk factors for falls. And so the older we get, the more risk factors there are, right? Because age-related decline happens in function. So whether that's, the bones, the muscles around the bones, just strength, right? And we can prevent that. We have the capability to prevent some of those losses with fitness and the way we eat and feed those bones and those muscles. So those are great. But there are other biological things that might be happening in the body. So a person might have difficulty walking. Maybe there's concerns with their gait. Some of that could be due to old injuries or to different chronic conditions that they're experiencing. So they might, that might create a tripping hazard for them. People sometimes don't sleep well as they age. And I'm still very grateful that I sleep well. My mother didn't sleep well after menopause, and I'm cross my fingers every day that doesn't happen to me. But if you don't get enough rest, it's hard, right? It's harder for you, just the physical work of moving the body is harder when you haven't had enough sleep, and your brain is fuzzy. You know how it is when you don't have a good night's sleep.
Not so good. Doesn't work as well.
Exactly. And there are other medical conditions, things like diabetes, right? If your blood sugars are going up and down, that could contribute as well. Parkinson's, we talked about, some of those difficulties with walking. If you have some muscular degenerative diseases, that might also lead to difficulties with being able to move around the world in a way that's easy. Yeah.
One of the things that I don't know that we do enough of is ask people for help once in a while.
Yeah.
Like I can't. I'm right now, I'm pretty good, but I can't say that what will happen in a year from now, that maybe I need a little bit of assistance. Can somebody help me
Yeah.
if it's at all possible?
Absolutely. So you should have a list, right? You want to have a list of people at the ready that you can depend on if you fall, and also a way to connect with them, right? So if you fall, it might not be easy to get to a phone. So some people have devices where they can press,
Right.
and it will go directly to a service that will help them, or to a person, as the case may be. Cell phones are pretty handy now because we can move them around the house with us. It's much more
That's
difficult to get
helpful.
to a phone that's on the
Right.
wall.
One of the other things too is that you can look up on the website. And I know I recognize that not everybody has computers.
Yeah.
But if you do have, you can go to the health unit, for example, and get information about falls
Yes.
prevention.
Yeah, on our website, so you can educate yourself about some of these factors, right?
Right.
Not only the risk factors, but some of these things that we can do. So we talked about doing a bit of a falls assessment in your space before. Other things we need to check into is medication. So are you taking a medication that's making you woozy or giving you trouble with your legs and movement? That could be a side effect of your medication. So checking in with physicians and pharmacists related to that. And then your eyes.
Right.
If you can't see, and this has just happened to me in the last couple of years, Rebecca, as I work on my own healthy aging, is having to have different kinds of glasses, right? To see the paper in front of me or to see in the distance. So making sure that your eyes are checked and that you're using your glasses in the way that
Right.
is
and
important.
then many seniors get cataracts. And so you're not necessarily blind, but you have fog in front of
Blurry.
your eyes
Yeah,
and you
it's blurry all
can't
the
see
time.
properly.
Yeah, and so your depth perception is off, right?
Right.
And so especially we talked about many of the falls are happening on flat surfaces, but if you're going up and down the stairs, I learned this when I got my bifocals for the first time in the subway in Toronto. I was going down the stairs and I was, whoa, wait a minute.
Yes.
So you have to like move your glasses out of the way. So thinking about those things is an important part of
there's
falls
all
prevention.
kinds of things that you have to really think about so that you don't fall.
Yeah.
Because you can fall, and if you fall hard, you could wind up dying. I don't.
I know. I didn't want to go there, but it's true.
It is.
Seniors are at risk
Yeah.
with falls because of that, and it could be complications that they get in the hospital. We talked about that before.
Right.
Many of the seniors who do fall will end up hospitalized, and then complications happen there because of broken bones or just because the body is weaker. We're going to talk about how to keep the body well. We did exercise. We're going to talk a bit about food. Right? There are certain things we can do. We can't turn back the clock.
No, that's not going to happen.
And one of the things I want to talk about, one of the campaigns that we have at the health unit is this Walk Like a Penguin campaign. Maybe you've seen it.
Right.
I didn't bring the outfit to dress up as a penguin today. Some of my friends will be
Before
disappointed.
we get into that and showing that video, I want to talk about vitamin D because it's really important for falls prevention.
Yeah, absolutely. Vitamin D is so important for a lot of things. We had a little pre-chat on here,
Right.
Rebecca and I, about how vitamin D not only helps to make strong bones, especially in combination with calcium. We know about strong bones and teeth. And so strong bones is important when you fall. You don't want them to break. But it also can help our muscles to move. It has a role keeping our immune system healthy. So when we're well in general, when we're fighting off the colds and the flus that are going around this time of year, we have less risk of falling because our body is just stronger. So those are some of the reasons. Vitamin D deficiency and the age-related skeletal muscle decline that comes with it is one of those things that puts us at greater risk. So we want to make sure that we have enough vitamin D. And at this time of year, you can't get it outside with the sunshine. So you need to find it in your food sources and ideally supplementation. So we do recommend for all of us that we have at least 400 IUs a day, up to 1,000 IUs. So it's easier to find 1,000 IUs in the pharmacy. Yeah. So taking that every day is important.
We're just finishing this segment. So we're going to walk like a penguin. Now, what do we do with it?
All right, so we're going to open our feet wide, right? We're out on the icy places, and you'll see the video in a minute, but you want to walk nice and slow. Slow steps, feet are wide, nice little bend in your knees. So keep that in mind.
And as an older adult, we'll just finish off our next segment with the some food.
Yeah, let's talk food.
Join us then.
Yep.
Well, Kim McGibbon is my guest today, and we're talking about falls prevention. And then, of course, we talked at the last segment about walking like a penguin. And actually, you know what, Kim, that really works, to be honest with you.
Yes.
I've tried it a few times. So, and particularly if you're outside on a slippery, you know, with ice and stuff. But anyway, now we're going to talk about food and healthy foods to get ready for the winter so that you can not fall when you're up doing something.
Yeah, well, the weather is changing
Yes, it
outside.
is.
All of a sudden, it feels very wintry. The last couple of days, we've had snow here in Thunder Bay.
Right.
And at that time of year, what does it make you think of? Like warm soups and stews
Correct.
boiling away in the kitchen. Maybe if you're lucky enough to have someone living at home that's baking bread. That happened to me last week. Someone was making soup
Whoa,
and bread when I came
that's a
home.
bonus.
That's a bonus, but we're
That's
not
a
going to go
bonus.
that crazy
No.
today. But if we want to prevent falls, because we're talking about falls prevention, how eating can have an effect on that. We talked a little bit about vitamin D, but also just keeping your blood sugar levels up, right? Maintaining your blood sugar so you don't get dizzy, right? You know, when you start to get a little bit hungry, you get dizzy. So we want to keep our energy levels up and eating regular meals, you know, so some breakfast, some lunch, some dinner. It doesn't have to be a lot of anything, but when we choose it, we want to make sure it's got some vegetables and fruit, some whole grains ideally, and some source of protein.
Going back to the food guide of Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
Basic
Didn't bring
foods.
one.
We don't
Yeah.
need fancy, but
Yeah.
we need all of the various components to that
Yes,
guide.
exactly.
So what do we have here today?
Well,
Tell
what
me.
I want to talk about is making soup and stew and
Right.
how great it is because you can make a big batch of it. If you are a senior, you might find soup is easier to chew, right? It's softer.
Right.
It has lots of liquid, and so that liquid can help us prevent dehydration. Sometimes we lose that urge to drink, and we might get dehydrated as seniors. It's much more common there. So I wanted to talk to you about like some of the things we might put into soup, and this is just
Right.
a ridiculously random collection of things that I have on the table in front of us. But when I think of making soup, I always start with onions. So we have onions for flavor, you know, rather than lots of salt and other additives that come in foods. We can start with the flavoring, and so celery is also great for flavor. I don't have any carrots on the table, but I would always start with carrots. I didn't want to buy them at the grocery store on my way here because I have them already at home. But these are things that you might want to start with. I also think it's really great at this time of year. We have so many seasonal things that are happening. And so in your household, maybe you eat squash soup. I made...
I love squash soup. My
Yes.
daughter-in-law makes the best
Does
squash.
she?
Oh, yes,
Amazing.
it's excellent.
Okay,
yes.
so this is a butternut squash,
Yeah.
and it's hard, right? So it's very hard to cut. So if we're talking about preparing things, chopping might be hard as we get older, but you can buy these in the freezer section. So we did that last time. Already chopped up, ready to go, no waste on them. So if, you know, buying a whole thing is too complicated, but I like to buy the whole one, and I throw the whole thing in the oven. I pierce it with a knife a little bit.
All right.
I roast it at 350 until it's so soft that I can cut it open and scoop it out. So I don't do any cutting, right?
No.
I'm still avoiding the cutting, even though practicing cutting is good for us.
That's
but
not hard.
It's an easy way to do that. You can do
Right.
it in the microwave too. So if you have a microwave at home, you can do the same thing. Just pierce it so it doesn't explode.
Okay.
So good seasonal vegetables. You know, cabbage is in season right now too. A lot of people are choosing, you know, cabbage might be a big part of your cultural heritage and you want to use those soups. There's something about soup that makes us think of our past, right?
One thing I need to know, Kim,
Yeah, what
though,
else?
I'm starting. I'm ready to go with all of this. What do I use as a base? Like,
Yeah.
do I just use water? Or
Well,
do
absolutely,
I use...
you can use water if you have chicken broth or turkey broth at home that you've made. So I have some in the freezer, for instance. But if you don't have those things, you can buy broth, right?
Oh,
So broth
that's-
cubes.
okay.
This is a chicken broth. You can buy a vegetable broth. You can buy a beef broth. Depends on what kind of soup you plan to make. So you can buy broth. These are saltier versions, and they're definitely not as good as when you boil up your own bird and some onions and celery and carrots, and then you make your own stock at home. So I always tell people, even though, like last time I was here, we bought the whole chicken and
Right.
showed how you can turn that whole chicken into so many meals.
That's right.
So this happened in my house. I have a roommate that's staying with me right now, and she bought one of those chickens, made a bunch of stuff, and then boiled up the carcass.
So we're talking about those little rotisserie
Yes, because
chickens.
they're the same price, already
Yes.
cooked as the whole
Right.
thing to make yourself. So sometimes it might be a really great choice. And then you boil up, take this pot afterwards, boil up all the bones, throw in some onions and celery and carrots, and you have a beautiful stock ready to go.
That's a start, ready
That's
to
your
go.
stock, yeah.
Now, you've talked
You
about
strain it
adding the
off and ready to go.
squash and tomatoes if you wanted.
Yeah.
What else do you
I
add
love
to
tomatoes
this?
in my soup. I use a lot of tomatoes, and I buy canned tomatoes. These are no name. So we also like to talk about how to save some money in the grocery store. The cost of food is high these days. So canned tomatoes, you can find them with no salt added, especially if you have specialized diets. So looking for that. I always have some of these in my cupboard. And then you can buy other canned vegetables, right?
Right.
So I like to buy frozen most of the time, but I don't always have, I have a tiny freezer at my house. So maybe you also want to have, some other kinds of canned vegetables around that you can use. And then you want to round out the vegetables,
Correct.
right? So we're going to round out the vegetables with some kind of protein. So lentils are the cheapest protein that you can find on the market. And this is a red lentil. They're the easiest ones to cook up. So
They're red.
They're red lentils, yes.
Oh,
they're tiny,
interesting.
tiny little red lentils. You cook them in. I would make this, like basically all of these things, probably not the corn in a soup, as a pretty standard soup with some curry. But you can flavor things however you want. Maybe you want it to have an Italian seasoned flavor. Also
Right.
pairs really well with tomatoes and some carrots and celery and onions. And then you cook the red lentils in there, a tiny little bit, a half a cup, 3/4 of a cup of red lentils. They're kind of going to melt away in there and create this thick, beautiful soup
Right,
and
right.
give you a protein source.
Which
and that
is
protein
perfect.
source comes with a very low fat and a good source of fiber too, because it comes from a plant. So you're getting fiber in there too.
But you can also use rice.
Well, we're going to
we're
add some
gonna leave
grains
that for
as
the
well.
moment. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So
All
then
right.
the other thing, so there's 3 food groups we talked about, right?
Yes.
So vegetables, some protein, and then some grains. And so
Okay.
whole grain products that you can add. So this is couscous. Have you ever eaten couscous, Rebecca?
Yes, I have. That's not my favorite, but it's
not.
It's okay.
It
It's
just happened
good
to be
for
a box
you.
that we had at the
Yeah.
office in our nutrition room, so I grabbed it. So all kinds of grains. So barley, rice, wild rice that comes from our region
Right.
is delicious in soup. Quinoa I like to put in soup. But you know what I bought today? Orzo. Orzo is super fun. It's like a little tiny pasta. Goes great with chicken because it goes well with this idea
Right.
of making our own chicken stock, taking the chicken off of that meat, off of the bird, and then putting it in with the soup. And
Orzo.
Orzo with lots of vegetables as well. So you can do lots of things with different kinds of grains. So
And I've not used this, but
Yeah.
it's just like
Looks like
little rice. but
little
it's
baby
not, but it's
pastas shaped
pasta.
like rice.
You're right. Yeah,
Exactly.
it is.
That's what it looks like.
Well, that would be very good.
Absolutely. Right? So lots of benefit of soup. One of them is that you can put it away, right?
Mm-hmm.
You only have to cook once and then eat many times.
So if I was doing it, as I said, my daughter-in-law makes wonderful squash soup. She gives me a couple of bags of it,
Yes, some
and I'm
freezer.
talking about bags, meaning
Put
she
it in a
puts
Ziploc
it in the
bag.
so I can keep it in my freezer. It doesn't take up as much room as because if you have a container, it takes up more room.
I know.
So she
you put it in a Ziploc bag
Yeah.
and then you flatten it. You can put it on a cookie sheet to flatten it
Mm-hmm.
in the freezer first and then take it out and pass it on.
Well, I think that
Absolutely.
to me that's a real helpful
Yeah.
way of doing it, and you can get more in. So,
Yeah.
But a big container like this, you can get a few meals out of that.
And so you can share that with friends.
Right.
So one other way to eat well is actually to eat with other people. So if you live alone, maybe inviting someone over to share soup this day, and then they can make you a pot of stew
Right.
the next day.
And it's really healthy for you. I think that's the most important thing for
Yeah,
people.
well, we want to have food that nourishes our body, gives us the vitamins and minerals that we need, and also has got lots of flavor in it. So using some spices and some herbs to flavor up that food. And then the other thing is, if you have a big pot of stew like this or soup like this, and it's cold and slippery outside, you don't have to go out because you can
outside.
go to your freezer to make sure that you have what you need on those days that are really bad.
That's right.
Maybe that
And
pot of
there
soup's
are.
not going to last all winter, but there are days that are worse than others, and you wait for the roads to be clear and the sidewalks to be
Right.
plowed before you go out.
Kim, this has been great information about falls prevention, which we don't want anybody to be doing,
Yep.
and then some food and easy way to make meals and all the rest of it. Thank you very much.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate
Yeah, we want to keep
it.
bodies strong and healthy so
And
that
we're going to continue to do
Yeah,
that. Thank you
awesome.
very much, Kim McGibbon, our guest. And of course, now we're going to, as you're able to eat all this different food and not fall and all the rest of it, keeping up with exercise. And Linda DePiro is here with a 1 minute of exercise for you. So enjoy that as well.
Yep, get moving.
Hi, I'm Linda DePiro, and I am down on the mat on the floor today. I'm going to demonstrate some side-lying leg lifts on the mat. So coming down, here is a long body, and I'm going to bend my knees at about a 45-degree angle here, keeping my feet together going into this clam. I want my hips stacked on top of each other as I lift without rolling back. So I'm keeping this very stable in here. I want to activate my gluteus medius and minimus, which are your pelvic stabilizers. and they need to stay strong to function optimally. A couple other variations is lifting, right? Lifting and lowering. As you can see, I have a little red band. It's just there so I can show you. If you added a little bit more resistance, bringing it above the knee, you can do the same thing with just a little bit more. A semi-tandem leg, straight legs, bring the top foot in between the knee and your ankle, and you can feel it a little bit more coming here. So we want these to stay strong for optimal results here, and it reduces muscle imbalances. From there, straighten the legs, lift and lower. I'm not lifting too high as I still want to keep this connection. Point and lift, flex and lower. Reversing it, flex to lift, point and lower. Keeping the leg at hip height, rapid little circles in one direction and the other. Go back to your 45-degree angle and separate the leg completely from the bottom one. Of course, I'm just doing this quickly. You want to do about 8 reps with each of these. And then my favorite is the rotation, internal, external rotation, working through all 6 rotator muscles. And then for the stretch, you can take that band off, bringing this leg across to feel that nice stretch in there. So keep your pelvic stabilizers healthy by doing these side lying exercise. Have a great day.